hear me all right? So can I just ask how many people have heard of IIIF? Heard of IIIF, the International Image Interoperability Framework. So some. So I'm going to attempt to explain what this is in the next 5 minutes. So, all right. So the I in IIIF stands for image. So why are we here talking about text and AV? So over the last few years, many national libraries, big universities, museums have started publishing their digitized objects to a standard called IIIF to avoid having to reinvent the wheel reinvention of making viewers and book readers and so on like that, things like that. But these haven't been, these have been 2D objects, books, manuscripts, maps, that kind of thing, paintings, and not operas, TV programs, or oral histories. But many of these institutions have been many of these institutions have these kinds of content, especially the British Library, a major backer of IIIF. So we want to expand this to AV. But in order to do that, let's just take a quick look at how it works. Fundamentally, IIIF is a standard that publishes these things called canvases, which is where we assemble content. So here I've published a canvas. It has a width and height. They're not pixels, they're just an arbitrary aspect ratio. And in that space, I can assemble content. So I've published this canvas. It represents an object in the library, and I can insert the image content of that object into it from anywhere on the web, and I can insert the textual content of that object from anywhere on the web. And the way I do that is using the W3C web annotation data model. So those two pieces of content were annotated onto that piece of JSON, that abstract canvas, via the W3C web annotation model, which is the web standard, ratified last year. And it allows us to associate resources or text or other annotation bodies with extents of space in our published canvases. And that's pretty powerful because it allows us to, for example, build book readers that include transcriptions of the text or commentary or crowdsourced transcriptions or all that kind of stuff. Lots and lots of good things, but not time-based media. So how do we deal with all this kind of content that the British Library has in its sound archives and many other people have, oral histories? And how do we deal with this kind of content which the British Library wants to deal with next, which is basically exactly the same interface we saw in the BBC earlier. British Library's archive of broadcast news in radio and video form. So we need to be able to extend this model to support time-based media. We need to kind of insert moving images or extents of sound into our canvas. And so the way we do that is we add a time dimension to the canvas. And it's kind of, sounds simple, but that's, So here I've got a canvas. It now has an extra property, which is its duration. And I could have a canvas that just has a duration. This one's half an hour long, well, it's an hour long. I now have an annotation space into which I can insert time-based media. So I can start, I don't know if this is going to make some audio, but we'll see. Oops. Okay, so here I've just got an audio recording on a canvas, and I've got annotations. But how does that actually work behind the scenes? Here's a slightly more complex IIIF representation, and you can see that I've got the same W3C annotations pointing here at an MP3 to annotate my extent of time, and then pointing at the textual transcriptions from particular time signatures within that canvas. So I'm associating textual content with the canvas as well as its media content. And I can do the same with video. So here's this demo is part of the Universal Viewer, which this bit was worked on by Yosha, you heard earlier. And here I'm putting multiple video sources onto a canvas and seeing that I can have multiple videos within one abstract canvas space. If I turn that into a kind of viewing experience, here I can see images, text, video, and audio all annotating the same canvas space. And furthermore, what I'm doing from a kind of viewer context is seeding the control of the time dimension from the individual pieces of media to the canvas as a whole. And so if I grab the kind of scrub bar here, you can see that as I scrub backwards and forwards, it's not individual bits of media that I'm scrubbing through, it's this abstract space, which means that I can fill my space with all sorts of sources, textual, audio, whatever. And so from this foundation, we've been working with the British Library to extend the capabilities of the Universal Viewer to support its sound archives. So here you can see I'm navigating around a bit of Radio 4. I can expand that out to a full screen. And I've got navigation through the structure of the object because we can describe our multi-canvas objects in great detail through structure. I can navigate around, I can explore this stuff, and the point is that institutions like the British Library who publish this content this way can expect to find their content consumed, annotated, worked on by anyone else who builds viewers or annotation tools or search tools that conform to this standard. So our next problem is, how do we make it work with this? Our next piece of work to do is to basically implement exactly the same user interface that we saw from the BBC earlier. And I'm hoping that we can have a conversation today around how do we make IIIF the kind of interoperability format for all the work we're doing with text and AV. I hope that's a reasonable, brief introduction to IIIF. I can just finish with another IIIF use case, exactly the same JSON data model here being used to associate video, textual annotations, an annotation of a score, and so on through time. All this stuff is just kind of automatically falls out of the model if you let this stuff come together in a viewer. That's it.
Are there any questions?
How well supported is this sort of thing in browsers right now? You mentioned it's the web annotation spec. How stable is that?
So it's a W3C standard. So in theory, it's a W3C technical recommendation. So it's at the same level as CSS and HTML. But it's not something that's understood natively by the browser. It's, you implement a viewer that understands that model and it will play it. So yeah, it's people write JavaScript applications like, you saw the universal viewer just now. There are many compatible IIIF viewers, and there are many sources of IIIF, so you don't have to stick one institution's content with one institution's viewer. You can mix and match it.
Anyone else? Okay, cool, thank you.